I know your mind is probably on the imminent release of Scarlet and Violet, and to be honest, so is mine. But today, me and the rest of the team of the New 151 will be sharing with you another batch of our redesigns. For those of you who are new here, the New 151 was a project that I did with my friends Infinipede and Banana Meteor, redesigning every Kanto Pokemon. We started in 2016 and finally finished just a couple months ago. Thank you. If you want to have a look at what we did, you can check out the entire project archive at new151.tumblr.com, or you can watch the playlist for this video series where we recap our process and reflect on the results. Today we're talking about a bunch of really cool late game Pokemon that I think turned out really well. Electabuzz and Magmar, which we designed as a pair, Tauros, Magikarp and Gyarados, and Lapras. Let's start with Electabuzz and Magmar. I took the lead on Electabuzz while Infinipede focused on Magmar, but we worked together to make them more explicitly counterparts.
I really like Electabuzz, the original, and mainly what I wanted to change about it was just kind of the aesthetics. I really like the aesthetics of Elekid and of Electivire much more than the aesthetics of Electabuzz, and it feels like a more modern approach to Pokemon. Even Elekid being just Generation 2, it fits really nicely with modern Pokemon. And so that was the main thing. I just wanted to update the style a little bit and, give it those big forearms. I really like those big forearms. And that was kind of it. Like, everything else just came from trying to find those threads of connection with Magmar.
I like Magmar, but I hate a lot of things about it, if that makes any sense. It's mostly the head boobs, and I realize that, there is it's named Booba, and there could be, like, the blue-footed booby joke. I don't know if that's even it. My main concept was I thought it kind of worked as an echidna, so I went with that, and I also incorporated elements from Magmortar, like the shoulder flames. With the tail, I think that was partially one thing I did to match yours, is we wanted to have kind of like a cloud element. But I went with smoke for the tail because there's so many fire tails in Gen 1. There's too many, maybe.
Yeah, and then for my tail, it was the cloud and lightning motif. I think you were the one that brought up the echidna idea, but I also incorporated that into my approach for Electabuzz because echidnas have... they can sense electric fields, so it seemed appropriate to use that as well. That went into making Electabuzz a little bit more spiky than it was before.
And you additionally had the electric symbol on Electabuzz, which I kind of followed suit and put the little fire symbol on Magmar, which actually helped a lot to make its the band around its neck and its ankles seem less out of place.
Right, yeah, I was just adapting the lightning patterns from the original, but it was nice to have that kind of, to put a parallel to that in Magmar as well. I think the only other thing that I changed in the process was that I added the blue bands to Electabuzz, which was mostly just to add color, because Magmar does have quite a few different colors. Blue just seemed like a good, electricity color besides yellow. It was a pretty smooth process during the stream, I think.
Yeah, surprisingly so.
Oh, I guess the other thing that I added to Electabuzz that wasn't there before is the plug motif. So obviously there's the plug ears or horns that come from Elekid, but then there's also the 3-pronged plugs that make the claws. I think we played around with that during the stream, so that was something that was definitely refined as we went along.
It also matches up with Magmar having, the white claws.
In the end, I'm really happy with both of these. I still really like Electabuzz.
I really like Magmar too. I think it came out very good.
I think they make a great pair. I don't see anything on either of them that I would change.
Next up is Tauros, which was my design.
I don't think I even did a sketch for this one, actually. It was such a simple idea of what needs to change and how it needs to change. I think I just kept it in my head and just went right for it in the stream. So I really didn't feel like I needed to change much. I just needed to make some adjustments to make it more of a unique Pokemon rather than it being just an animal. Like Tauros doesn't really have much going for it that is unique to Tauros and not just a bull. Like it has the things on the head and it has the three tails, and that's about it. So I wanted to work with those things and make them more prominent, but I also wanted to use some inspiration from bullfighting, but without like making sure to not glorify it. And I also wanted to take inspiration from aurochs, which are, they were the wild ancestors to modern domesticated cattle. So they were quite large, and they went extinct in, I think, the 17th or 18th century, something like that. So the shape of the horns, for example, is very much from aurochs. The plate on the head is from the original Tauros. And the idea was to make them seem very aggressive. So there's the scarring on the tips of the horns, there's the scarring on the plate on the head, there's the red pattern on the back that references bullfighting, but also just the aggressiveness of the species. It was not about like making it seem angry, but just showing the results of their aggression in the same way that like Sharpedo and Garchomp, they have the yellow like scar star on their face. And I think there's a few other Pokemon. Oh, Zangoose, like the red pattern on its chest is supposed to be from like bloodied fur, and so it was just like using that kind of established Pokemon design language to be like, these are scars, these are aggressive animals. So yeah, the star on the head plate was definitely coming from that. The tail was modified to still be with three tips, but it's more like an actual whip. Like it has the part that is all three tails combined. And then there's some little details about the shape of the fur and the shape of the pattern that is made to look like the classic clothes of bullfighters as well. So like bullfighters have this kind of vest that is open on the front, and so that's why the light pattern goes from the head down the middle, and there's like the dark pattern going around it. That was the idea. And honestly, I really like it. I think it still fits really nicely with modern Pokemon. I don't see anything that I would change about it. I don't think it's a particularly standout design. I like Electabuzz, for example. I like a lot more than this. Yeah, like I wouldn't do anything differently anyway.
Now here's Banana Meteor with her concept for Magikarp and Gyarados.
I think Magikarp and Gyarados are both really strong designs, but I've always felt like they had kind of weak cohesion. I know that you disagree with me on this, and that's totally fine, but I did want to bring in more of a color tie to the two. I really like one designs. They don't have to be the exact same color scheme, but I like when they're related with their palette. So I wanted to bring a bit more of that in, and I wanted to make Magikarp look a little bit weaker, a little less sharp, and more helpless, and Gyarados a bit more intimidating. So I guess in some ways, I made them look more cohesive, but in other ways, I kind of pushed them further apart to make their own designs. So I tried to make it look like a bit more aggressive with the fangs and the large draconic eyebrows. I didn't feel like the segmented body added a lot. I just sort of felt like that made it look busier than I wanted it to.
And you clearly took a lot of inspiration from Chinese dragons?
I did. That's one of the things I really like about Gyarados. I know it's not strictly a dragon type, but the fact that it can fly in the air like this really big, long serpent definitely reminded me of that. And I sort of tried to make the whiskers longer, too, to play into this flowing aspect of this large air serpent. We didn't make a ton of changes. I think I might have drawn Magikarp's eye a little bigger, but, like, that's fine. That's a fine change to make it smaller.
What stands out to me about Gyarados is how much I struggled with that one. In terms of, like, actually getting the drawing to look right, getting the mouth in particular to look right.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to throw it up on the screen, but you had an entire different render of Gyarados. I think you even shaded it, too. You had it done, and then just of your own accord, you were like, nah, this looks bad, I'm going to do another one. And to your credit, I like the new one you made a lot more. Can't complain there. I feel really positive about these guys. Looking at them now, I think I'd probably make them the same way. I liked making default Gyarados the shiny color scheme because I felt that made it look more draconic, more aggressive, more in line with Magikarp's color scheme, pops out against the water. There's too many blue water types in my opinion, which I know like there should be because it's water, but it's fun to go against the grain, especially in a gen where there are so many water types.
And finally for today, we have Infinipede with their take on Lapras.
So I know Lapras, like, supposed to be a plesiosaur, but it's got a couple pretty major differences from a plesiosaur, so I went and looked up what I thought might fit it better. So plesiosaurs don't have shells, and they were likely not friendly things that would let you ride them. So I decided for the shell, I was going to base that part of Lapras on the Cephaderma, which is an aquatic reptile that was related to the plesiosaur. And it had like a double segmented shell. And then I also wanted to base Lapras from the beginning a bit more on the manatee, because, you know, slow friendly sea cow. I also wanted to make the ice type show a bit more, because Lapras is one of the many water ice type Pokemon in Gen 1 that does not have the ice type at all visible. We definitely changed a couple major things. Originally, my Lapras was more like the majority of its body was like a light lavender, and we changed that to be blue with there still being the lavender stripe in the middle. Additionally, we changed the shell somewhat and the ice spikes on it. I think it was your idea, Libris. It was making the back segment of the shell like a saddle, and then making the back two ice spikes like little handlebars that you could hold on to. Yeah, so it becomes like a better riding Pokemon, and I think that's a really good idea. But the rest stayed pretty similar to my original. There were more stars on the body, and we ended up just putting them on feet and hands, and that definitely makes it look less busy, so I think that was probably the right way to go about it. I might have wanted to put one, like, maybe looking back at it, it might have been cute to have one, like, on the cheek, or somewhere on the nose, but I really like how this one came out. I'm kind of sad I don't feel like it's getting as much appreciation, at least not on Tumblr, as I think it's like an upgrade from Classic Lapras. I've never personally had that nostalgia for Lapras, but I get why some people do. It's very iconic. I don't know, I think it's a really good change, and I quite like it.
I think this was a really strong batch, and honestly, we stayed on that really high note for the rest of the project. I hope you look forward to the videos recapping the rest of our designs. In the meantime, please leave a comment with what you thought of today's redesigns. And if you wouldn't mind giving us a like and subscribing, we'd appreciate that too. Thank you for watching, and thank you also to my wonderful patrons and channel members, especially cherished patron Wispy White Smoke and luxury patrons Ethan from Chicago, Freebird Nerd, and Seafood Dinner. You can become one of the Libros by clicking the join button below, or heading to patreon.com/UmbreonLibris for more perks. Either way, I will see you in the next chapter.